Good afternoon. Quiet down, please, students. Veterans, community members, students, and staff, welcome to our 7th annual Veterans Day program. Students, after the last song today, please, in an orderly and safe manner, you will head back to 6th hour. Community members, if you are parked directly in front of the school, our buses will start to arrive at about 2:30, so we ask that you move your vehicles before then. November 11th is a day set aside to honor those who have served their country. It traces its roots back to World War I when it was known as Armistice Day. In 1954, in its original proclamation on Armistice Day, Congress spelled out the purpose for this commemoration. Whereas the 11th of November, 1918, marked the cessation of the most destructive, sanguinary, and far-reaching war in human annals, and the resumption by the people of the United States of peaceful relations with other nations, which we hope may never again be severed. And whereas it is fitting that the recurring anniversary of this date should be commemorated with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between nations. And whereas the legislatures of 27 of our states have already declared November 11th to be a legal holiday, therefore be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring, that the President of the United States is requested to issue a proclamation calling upon the officials to display the flag of the United States on all government buildings on November 11th, and inviting the people of the United States to observe the day in schools and churches or other suitable places with appropriate ceremonies of friendly relations with all other peoples. At this time, would you please rise? Gentlemen, remove your headgear and help us honor America by singing along with our national anthem. At this time, I would like to introduce the Milaca High School Concert Choir under the direction of Ms. Elizabeth Boudon. I'd like to ask at this time, if you are a veteran, please stand. Thank you. Those are the people we are here today honoring. Those are the people who answered the call to serve. Less than 1/2 of 1% of our nation serves in our armed forces. And every single one of those people standing a minute ago answered that call. So thank you. It's my privilege and honor to introduce our speaker today. Jim Doughton comes to us today from Minneapolis. He is a licensed professional geologist with a bachelor's degree in geology, master's of business administration, and a master of science in environmental policy and management. Jim currently is the supervisor of environmental services in the Minneapolis Health Department, where he is in charge of environmental regulatory enforcement. He is also working with the USDA, the University of Minnesota, and the Natural Resource Research Institute to combat climate change by developing and refining carbon-negative technology to remove carbon dioxide from the air and store it in the soil to rebuild urban soil health. Jim is a retired Master Sergeant from the Minnesota National Guard. He spent 17 years in the Army Reserve in various positions, from infantryman to combat engineer to working as the nuclear biological chemical specialist. Shortly before 9/11, he transferred to the Minnesota National Guard 34th Aviation Brigade and spent 14 years serving in that capacity. Jim has spent about 6 years total on active duty throughout his time. He has served in Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Jim retired in 2013 as a senior infantry sergeant with the 34th Infantry Red Bulls Division. Jim has been awarded the Bronze Star, Meritorious Service Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Army Commendation Medal with oak leaf cluster, Joint Service Achievement Medal, Army Achievement Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters, Good Conduct Medal, 3 campaign medals, 2 NATO service medals, and numerous other service medals and ribbons. Jim is currently the commander of VFW Post 494 in Crystal, Minnesota. Join me in welcoming Jim Doughton.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here today. Just one thing, I'm glad that Damien took a chance to have the veterans honored, but one of the things is a little few people know, he himself was standing because he too is a veteran. So we appreciate his service as well. But I want to thank you for being here today, and I apologize. I got these glasses on today. I got cataract surgery coming on up. I have a heck of a time reading at the moment. I'm going to try my best. And that's not just because I'm an infantry guy. I actually do read. So we'll try. Anyways, want to thank you for being here today. We want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's the American veteran. We have quite a few of you here today, and it's glad to see that. We have some images in our head about what constitutes a veteran, and it may change. It may range based on your experience. For some of you, it may be the images you've seen recently of the young person in Iraq or Afghanistan carrying an M4 carbine weighed down with body armor, slogging through the hot conditions. Or it may be the older person sitting by you, proudly displaying the hat of the war or branch that they served in. But there's a lot of others out here that as well, you don't have that obvious sign out there. You know they're veterans. It's a quiet, unassuming man or woman next to you. And just be aware of their story and that we are out there. And again, I apologize for these darn glasses here. But what is a veteran? It may be kind of obvious. the ones that are out there, since you see the hat. But what constitutes a veteran is, according to the federal law, they say that a veteran is someone who has served on active duty for a period of at least 180 days, not in a training status, and that served under honorable conditions. But unless you get hurt during that time. But what that leaves out too is a lot of the reserve and guard folks who don't get called up, but needless to say, were there ready for the call, or the others that didn't have that opportunity. In my eye, in my heart, what a veteran is somebody who raised their hand to defend the Constitution of the United States and to wear that uniform and gave Uncle Sam a blank check that said that you have up to and including my life, and put your life on that line and give it for that country. That makes you a veteran in my eyes. So we appreciate that service. Veterans Day, as Damien mentioned, is served on November 11th every year as part of Armistice Day. This is not to be confused with Memorial Day, where we honor our war dead, but this was for those who made it through and are still with us here today and want to take the chance to get to honor and know those people. What used to be carried by a burden, a big burden by the large chunk of the country, as previously noted, has greatly diminished. During World War II, 9% of the total population in 1945, 16 million people were wearing the country's uniform. That was a big burden. Everybody knew a veteran. It was the person next door. It was a relative. It was your brother. It was somebody you knew. Everyone had skin in the game. And since the volunteer army or the draft went away in 1973, we'd seen that number drop quite a bit. And after the collapse of the Cold War in 1990, we'd see our numbers drop further from there. Today, even after having active conflicts going on recently in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places of the world, that is now, as he'd mentioned, less than half the percent of the population, 0.5%. It's actually 0.4% of the population. So now that burden is being carried by fewer and fewer people. And what does that mean? It means that the people that are out there, we don't have that shared experience anymore. You don't always know somebody who served or was serving and what that means, and be able to personalize that, and we see that. At one point in Congress, in the Senate, 75 to 80% of the population of those representatives in Senate were veterans. They understood what it meant to go to war and defend and the cost of it, and were very wary about how they used that strength. Now that's under 20%. So what does that mean for us as veterans, or us as a country, where people don't understand what that burden is and what that sacrifice is? Well, we sit here, moving on down here. But one of the things that us not being able to understand or relate to the veterans as much as they used to is if anyone here has seen the movie The Hurt Locker, there's a scene in The Hurt Locker where the protagonist, the main character, is an IED technician in Iraq, and his job was to go on out and disarm bombs around Iraq. It's quite a stressful job, as you can imagine. But you're focused, you knew what you needed to do. When he comes on home at the end of his tour of service and comes back to face the rest of the world and reintegrate with the rest of you folks, he's in the grocery store, his wife asks him to pick a box of cereal, goes into the aisle, looks at it, and just sees an endless sea of choices, and just boggle him that this is now what the decisions I have to make. The next scene, he's right back in Iraq, because that's what he understands. And I can relate to that, just that disconnect of come back in and feeling how it feels to come back into that society. And that's one thing with not knowing as many people that were out there before. We don't want to have that disconnect for our veterans. Now, if you meet someone who is a veteran, and there's a lot of them you saw standing up here, go ahead and take the chance to get to know that person. Of course, say hello, say thank you. I appreciate your service. That's always appreciated. But go a little bit deeper than that. Get to understand who that individual is. Just ask them. Where did you serve? What year were you there? What branch were you in? And then, if you want to get into it, really get a good conversation going, ask them how the food was. You'll never get them to stop talking. But get to know those folks. And that, just for saying, a lot of our greatest generation, those 16 million people that are serving, there's less than 300,000 of them left today. They're disappearing. And now, even now, the people of the wars that I fought in, Iraq and Afghanistan, we now outnumber the Vietnam veterans for the first time. Even that generation is going through its natural phase. And it's fewer and fewer of opportunities to meet those type of folks. And since 1980, the number of the population that can call themselves veterans dropped by half. So it's a disappearing thing, and we're losing that relationship and how we get along. So if you meet them, get a chance to get to know them. I just want to take a chance, just an opportunity just to say and give an example of that. There is one person from my VFW post. He's passed a few years now, but great guy, John Granda, World War II veteran. I bet you weighed $110. That's about as good as he got back in 1944 as well. But he was in a heavy artillery unit, 155 millimeter howitzer, and he served in the Pacific Ocean, in the Pacific with the Army. It's a big gun. The shell weighs about as much as he does. So John comes up to the thing, and said, you got this little pipe cleaner going up to the big guys, and tells the section chief, hey, why don't you let the big guys pick up the big rounds and fire it and load the gun. I'll be in charge of yanking the string, making it shoot. And that's what he did the rest of the Pacific War was, yank the string. Perfect fit for him. Everybody plays a role. But John, one of the things about John, he was there in the Pacific, in the Philippines, when MacArthur fulfilled his promise to return to the Philippines. If you don't know who Douglas MacArthur was, he was the commander of the land forces in the Pacific. Quite a famous guy for the time, kind of a rock star. But he was also kind of a prima donna. So he landed probably 2 or 3 times till he got the picture right. And then he got off the boat and stayed off the boat. And he's walking past where John Granda's gun is. They got it all set up, pointed in the general direction of the Japanese. They know it's not going to hit anything, but they're just waiting to shoot. And then the gun crew chief comes by and says, hey, fire the gun. Got General MacArthur walking by. He wants to see us fighting. Where are we going to shoot at? Just fire it. I don't care. So they loaded up the gun, and John Granda stands there and pulls the lanyard. MacArthur comes over, shakes his hand, says, great job. That's his big war story. He shot at the jungle. But you get to know these folks, and every one of the veterans out here has a similar story. Get to know that. Get to know that person as an individual. Help them feel like they're back home and where they belong. So as I am, just to move along here real quick, so I want to leave you on a positive note. Just the last bit of statistics here. Recently it came out, you've seen a lot of media lately on previously the Vietnam War and now with the current conflicts. 40% of the American public believes that the returning veterans today have some sort of mental issue. And it's fed to us by the media. That's what's going on. To me, that's a really sad story, because that number is around 15%. A lot of people go through a lot of stuff. You can't help it. But that helps feed that disconnect for the veterans who are here and wanting to feel like they're returning home, not feeling like that person in the hurt locker staring at the endless walls of cereal and being bewildered by what's going on here. So the things I want to say, I guess, is that Vietnam had gotten a lot of those same type of statistics. But as it turns out, the folks that came back from Vietnam in general earned 18% more than their peers, were promoted faster, and generally more successful in their lives. Incarcerated at the same rate, same drug and alcohol use, not the person depicted in the media. And that goes for the folks today too. The veteran today is strong and resilient, able to do a heck of a lot. You're good in teamwork, ready to lead, doing some things. That's what we need to make sure that people out there understand, the employers understand, and the people understand out here as well. So what I want to say is that when it comes down to, yes, the burden is becoming less and less on fewer and fewer people, but the people coming on out are better for their service. The people that are here are better for their service, and we appreciate all you have done. Reach out to those folks that are here, whether you know them or not. Shake their hand, get to know them a little bit, and find the human side to them. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. We're strong and resilient. We appreciate letting us get to know who you are. And now it's here, and we need your help to just make people feel like, hey, we're finally home. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the Milaca High School Symphonic Band under the direction of Mr. Andrew Nelson.
Veterans, more than anything else, are selfless and give of themselves to others. In my family, my wife's grandfather, Jack Doherty, was a World War II veteran who was captured early in the war, and he spent most of the war in a German POW camp. He wrote a series of letters home to his wife, Mabel. They were beautiful. They were passionate. The essay that is going to be read today by Aubrey is inspired by what Jack might have said as he was on his way to fight the war. And let me bring it back that he's a giver. Upon returning home after being a POW, within a year or two, Jack's wife Mabel was diagnosed with cancer. And according to my wife's aunts, Jack went to the barn and he cried and he prayed. And he said, God, take me. And within a year, Mabel was well, and Jack got cancer and was taken from this earth. And I think that defines how veterans think. It's always about other people and not about themselves. So we hope you enjoy Highway of Heroes and Aubrey reading this essay. Yes, there you go.
I thought for a moment about what it means to live in our country. We have so much to be thankful for. Wide open spaces, beautiful blue skies, the freedom to do so many things. How did this all come to be? Who makes sure that in a world full of peril, we get to enjoy so many great things? The answer is our veterans. And as you travel anywhere in this great country, you can't go far without seeing the American flag. We should take a moment every day to think of our veterans, to think of these heroes who have given so much for our nation. off to war, a letter home from a serviceman begins. We are marching. I don't know exactly where we're going. I only know that I have received the finest in training and the finest equipment. I know that I'm surrounded by a brand of brothers and sisters who have all pledged to be there for one another. We are going to fight for freedom. We are going to help the poor and fight for the right thing. The enemy knows we are coming. They are ready for us, but we will go no matter what, because the world is full of people who yearn for what we have back home. They want to be treated fairly. They want a chance to succeed. The place we're going, it isn't like home. We know that if we don't do our part, then darkness will settle on the world. We must be the light. We must shine the light of freedom and justice wherever we go. Please know that as we travel into dangerous places, we're in the hearts of Americans everywhere. We know that your prayers lift us up. We know that your love will be waiting for us when we return. But we won't all come home. We never have. Some of our brothers and sisters will lay down their lives today. They will do this with love in their hearts. We are afraid. It's natural to be afraid. To lay down your life for others, to sacrifice everything in the name of freedom. The world is full of places where our brothers and sisters rest in eternal peace. Rows and rows of crosses, some with names and some without. There are monuments to the unknown soldiers who died for what they believed in. Please know that I might not come home, but I'm still going. I'm going because I love my country, and I'm willing to lay down my life for the freedom that our flag represents. Remember me. When you think of me, please know that I'm looking forward every day to seeing you again. I have seen so much. I have witnessed so many things. I look forward to being in your arms again and to seeing my family. Thank you for loving me and supporting me as I go off to fight for our nation and for freedom today and always. We can all remember our veterans every day. We can all say thank you to them in so many ways. Most importantly, we can thank them by living our lives in a way that gives their sacrifice meaning. We can love and respect one another. We can each be a light for freedom and do the right things every day. Most of all, we can love our country, the United States of America, land of the free, home of the brave, a land that is truly filled with heroes who stand so boldly under the American flag. Thank you to our veterans.
In keeping with military tradition, the symphonic band and concert choir will now perform Armed Forces Salute. Veterans in attendance, we ask you to stand if you are able when your song is played and your military flag is displayed. Audience, please give a round of applause as each song is played and each flag appears. The United States Army. The United States Coast Guard. The United States Marine Corps. The United States Air Force. The United States Navy. President George Washington once said, "The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. Today is a day we honor those who answered the call to serve, but honestly, this should be every day. Every time we sing the national anthem or you heard it played, you should think about the veterans who have served. We all benefit from the sacrifices that they have made. We should honor their service by how we behave and act, and the pride that we take in how we live, how we work, and how we treat others. Thank you for helping us honor our veterans today. Students, after this last piece, you're going to be released orderly and safely to 6th hour. Community members, reminder, if you're parked directly in front of the school, our buses will start arriving at 2:30, so we ask that you please move those vehicles before then. One last song as the concert choir and symphonic band perform America the Beautiful. Please take a moment to remember and pray for all of our servicemen and women as they serve around the world. Feel free to sing along, and again, a special thanks to all our veterans in attendance today. Okay, students, orderly, safely, as quietly as possible. You can go to 6th hour.